Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the Russell Moore Show. Maybe this is a new voice for you. I mean, you've heard me before, but I'm introing this episode. This is Leslie Thompson, producer, and joining us, as always, is Dr. Russell Moore on the other
Hello.
line. Hello. So we're talking listener question today, one of our
Good.
listener questions.
I
And
always look forward to your listener questions.
I do too. And I have the honor of getting the listener questions. And Russell, we are receiving so many, but that's not to discourage anyone out there who wants to send one in. Please always send us your questions. Russell, what types of questions do we like to get?
Well, we like to get questions about a whole variety of things, so I don't really want to narrow it down.
Anything.
I'd
Yeah.
like to have questions about the Bible, questions about relationships, questions about moral decisions, questions about country music. We haven't gotten any of those lately, and we need them. Every sort of thing where you might be in a situation where you would say, I don't know. I've got to ask somebody um,
Any and everything. Any question at all. Yeah.
with a little asterisk within reason. Then yeah, anything.
I can't wait for our first country music episode.
Yeah.
That's going to be great. Well, let's go ahead and get to this listener question today. It's a question we've never had before. So let's listen
Okay.
to it.
Hi, Dr. Moore. I've got a question about a recurring discussion concerning the selection of worship songs for congregational use. Specifically, the debate revolves around whether to include or exclude songs based on the integrity of the songwriter or songwriters or the organization behind them, rather than solely on the song's lyrical content. For instance, some might argue for excluding all songs from a particular writer or a large organization or movement due to the controversies associated with them. This is true even if the songs themselves are lyrically and biblically suitable for congregational worship. The issue in these cases seems to stem from the song's origin. I know this isn't a new issue. Similar concerns have long existed with Christian books. Should we stop reading all material by authors who have experienced public moral failings? Similarly, should we exclude all songs that don't originate from an entity deemed to be above reproach? As we seek to hold fast to Christ-centered, gospel-oriented worship while also introducing new songs to our congregations, how should we be thinking through these concerns?
I love this question. What a great
Yeah.
question.
It's a great question because there are so many layers to it. So what I would say is, you and I are already always singing songs that have some problematic backstories, even if we're just singing hymns.
Hmm.
I mean, one of my favorite hymns is written by somebody that I would completely reject theologically. God of Grace, God of Glory by Harry Emerson Fosdick. I would totally disagree with Fosdick on the virgin birth and the second coming, and even the resurrection of Christ. I think he questioned the physical bodily nature of the resurrection of Christ. I would reject all of that, but man, what a great hymn!
Yeah.
And the message within that hymn is powerful. So I think there are a couple things to keep in mind. I mean, one of them is um, lyrics, like words, can have a power greater than the person who delivers them. So, a lot of people will get really upset when they think about, well, I heard the gospel from somebody who later turned out to be a fraud of some sort. Well,
Hmm.
Philippians 1:18, whether from false motives or true, Christ is preached. That doesn't mean that the motives don't matter. It means that the truth isn't hostage to those motives. So, when you get to a question, though, of songs. I mean, one of the reasons why this is difficult, and it's a difficult one for me too, because I'm kind of pulled in two different directions, is a song when sung in worship more like a sermon being preached, or is it more like a commentary that's helping somebody to prepare to preach? Because there'd be a
Wow.
difference
Yeah, that's
between
a really interesting nuance. Yeah.
what you would have. And I think with this question, I think it comes down to a judgment call that's based on some things that seem a little bit subjective. And here's what I mean. It's kind of similar to, we've had this conversation before about monuments. And I say, imagine if you have a church that has Saul in a stained glass window. Is that good or bad, given the way that Saul turned out in Scripture and God rejected him? Well, it depends. If you've got Saul on there in a series of stained glass windows that are showing the biblical story, perfectly appropriate. If you have stained glass windows that are, these are the heroes of the faith, the cloud of witnesses, then no, I wouldn't. And so with the song, a lot of it is going to depend on what do you think people are going to receive in terms of the message that you're trying to send. And so there might be, for instance, some songwriters or some movements where I would say, you know what, right now we're not going to do those songs because uh, people might immediately think that, oh, we're making a statement about that
Yeah, yeah.
in a way that later on, when people aren't attaching the same sort of messaging to it, you can say, well, let's just look at the lyrics and the music and see if that's God glorifying or not. And then you have both the message and the meaning that's in context together.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a judgment call.
You
And
know,
I know, I mean, I can think of, there are times when um, there one really popular worship song that I love, written by one of my former students. I love singing it because it's an amazing song, musically and lyrically, and also because I like him and I respect him, and I kind of have all of that bound up together whenever I sing that song. But there are other times when I will think, ugh, we don't really it kind of takes you out of the experience to start weighing what are we saying here with
hmm
with this. Now I realize I know more about kind of those sorts of things just because it's my job to know them than some people would, but you have to kind of ask, what are we signaling here?
yeah, and she didn't ask this in her question, but there's a nuance to this too. You and I live in Nashville, so we know a lot more about sort of royalties in general, just general
Oh,
music
yeah.
and royalties in books.
Mhm.
What about if you sing a song in church? A lot of churches have the CCLI license, which is paying royalties to these people who wrote them. And if they are a disgraced writer, if they've walked away from the faith, I mean, is there anything to consider then?
I really wouldn't put a lot of weight to that consideration because, I mean, I don't know how music royalties work because I'm obviously not a musician. I know how, though, writers' royalties work, and it's really not. I know that I'm not, if I buy a book by somebody that I think is an awful person, it's not really going to affect anything one way or the other in terms of royalties. I'm not sure about in terms of music, and I know that what she's saying is it's not the amount, it's the principle that's
Hmm.
involved. But that wouldn't be the primary thing. The primary thing would just be, for me, is this going to be a stumbling block to somebody
Hmm.
when they see it?
Hmm. That is a really great question.
But I mean,
And
think about you come into Christmas time.
mhm.
It came upon a midnight clear, written by a Unitarian.
Oh,
Still a
really?
great Christmas hymn,
I didn't know
and
that.
I would still gladly use it. What I wouldn't do is to say, "Hey, everybody, look at the great things Unitarianism has given to the cause of Christ. Here's an example." But that's not what most people are thinking about when they sing "It Came Upon a Midnight Clear."
Right. Well, and also the responsibility to have to know the backstory of every song it is that we're singing and every lyric. I mean, we can't possibly know.
No. Yeah, and that's why I say it's similar to what Paul's talking about with meat offered to idols, which is to say, if it's put in front of you, you don't have a responsibility to go interrogate and to say, where did this come from? But if somebody says to you, here's meat sacrificed to an idol, don't do it. Not because that idol, Paul says, is anything, but because that will be a point of stumbling for somebody else. And I think that applies here. You don't have a responsibility to go search out what's the life story of everybody who's written any hymn or song that we're going to sing. But if what's going to happen is that is going to really signal something in the same way that I might recommend a book to if somebody's asking me a question and they say I'm trying to figure out how to interpret Habakkuk. I may give them a book and say, here's a book on Habakkuk. I don't know anything about the person who wrote the book. I'm not going to give them a Ravi Zacharias book on Habakkuk, if there is one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a key difference, because
Hmm.
if that happens, then somebody's going to say, well, wait a minute. Is he trying to send a signal about Ravi Zacharias, given the fact that he is so bound up with that horrific story?
Right.
Those are different things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a really great question.
It
And
is.
we love hearing questions that require nuance, that require a little bit more pulling apart, looking under. So if you've got questions like that or any question at all, you can email us questions@russellmoore.com. And we love voice memos just like this one. In fact, we have so many voice memos that are great and we can't wait to get to them. And so send them to us and we'll see you next time here on the show.